Rich, I'm now going to start the part of the interview that I like to call my rapid fire interview questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, I'm going to shoot them at you.
All right.
First one, when did you first know that you wanted to become a lawyer?
I don't know the answer to that, but I know I was very young. I wanted to do it for a long, long time.
Do you have a favorite attorney to litigate against?
I don't, but what I would say is that over the years, in both the mass tort and the class action context, it can be a fairly small bar, and
Right.
you encounter people a lot, and I get along with the people on the other side, and I think that's been very helpful.
Rich, I'm going to be honest, that sounds like a little bit of a cop-out of an answer. I'm going to ask you to name names. Who do you like to litigate against?
I'm not going to give you names.
So, in your opinion, what has been the biggest change to the landscape of class action litigation over the last, say, 5 years?
Well, I think the Supreme Court cases have given renewed attention to the Rule 23 requirements, and also the element of Daubert. Are you going to allow a class to be certified without challenging the expert testimony that lay behind it and the formulas that the plaintiffs want to use? So there's a lot more due diligence on class action certification than I saw 5 years ago.
Fast forward 5 years. Do you think it will be the death of Justice Scalia?
I don't, but that in part requires me to predict what's going to happen in the next few months or year in finding a replacement for Justice Scalia. But I don't think that it will be Justice Scalia. I think that the justices are very concerned that there be clear guidance on class action rules, and I see that even on both sides of the bench in the decisions that Justice Scalia authored.
What's your favorite legal movie?
My Cousin Vinny.
Great answer. And what's your favorite non-legal movie?
I don't have a favorite non-legal movie, but I do watch all of the Academy Award movies. I'll tell you one that I saw this year that I didn't want to see, but I'm glad I did, was Room.
It's Room. You didn't want to see it because you know what the
Because of the
content
subject
was.
matter,
Yeah, it's
right.
obviously incredibly sad. Is there a particular book that you've gifted more than any other book over the course of your career or your life?
I give most of our newer lawyers in our practice group a copy of a book called Sleights of Mind, which is a book about, in essence, a book by some psychologists about how magic tricks work. And basically the way magic tricks work is you can't multitask, and that's
Right.
the lesson I'm trying to get across to them. So if you've ever had a magic trick that worked for you, it means you're amongst the 99+% of people who can't multitask. And I'm trying to teach our team that they need to really focus.
So it's not just that I'm particularly gullible?
It's not that you're just particularly gullible, we're both gullible.
As an aside, have you read Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow?
I love that.
That's a great book,
that's,
right?
That's Kahneman's book,
Yes,
right?
exactly right.
That's, I actually spoke on Kahneman's book recently, and I drew his lessons from that book as lessons on how to negotiate and how to decide when you're going to negotiate or litigate. I think he's terrific.
What was your least favorite law school class and why?
Ironically, torts. I went to the University of Chicago Law School, and I remember looking to the person next to me and saying, I will never live in California, and it was because of following tort cases in California,
Right.
which at that time, that's what you were being taught. And,
Right.
so it's ironic because now I've lived here for 33 years and headed our torts practice.
What do you think the biggest growth area, and I mean that from kind of the plaintiff's perspective in class action law is? What kind of cases are we going to be seeing filed more and more?
Yeah, I ask that question a lot of plaintiffs' lawyers, as you might anticipate. Right. And I certainly don't want to single out any client base I have. I think that tort or class action cases, both of them, follow the economy and follow public interest, and certainly privacy is a big area. Cybercrime, cyber attacks. Mm-hmm. Raise all of the issues that we see, and I think that some of the cases maybe have crested some of the food cases, for example. I think that we'd probably see a decline in those, but maybe not, maybe not.
What do you think was the worst case for the plaintiff's bar? Carrera, Concepcion, or Dukes?
Well, I don't know about worst. I think most influential was Concepcion because the plaintiffs decided to invest their money in cases that didn't have arbitration agreements. have talked with a number of plaintiffs' lawyers who said, we just won't go after those. So that was the most influential. The others, they probably feel that there's grounds for them to move forward, but that was something that simply made it a bad investment.
Recognizing, of course, that there are a number of incredibly worthy nonprofits, legal nonprofits out there, are there any ones that are particularly close to your heart?
Sure, I'm on the board, and I'll expand it beyond legal nonprofits.
Sure.
One of the neat things about being a lawyer is you're not confined to, strictly speaking, a legal world, although it helps to have the law degree. I work on the board of a mental health nonprofit very close to me. The most interesting recent experience I've had is as a board member of the Pacific Council on International Policy. I co-chair a task force on Guantanamo Bay. We have 17 members, bipartisan members of this task force. Almost all of us have gone to Gitmo as observers of the proceedings against Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and other high-value detainees who are accused of plotting and carrying out the 9/11 attacks. We issued a report recently that suggests reforms to that proceeding because it's simply taking so long to get it done, and we've suggested that there are ways to speed that up. And I authored an op-ed in Newsweek recently on that same issue.
Oh, fascinating. Would you advise the next generation to attend law school?
Absolutely. Maybe not for the reasons that you're asking. I think that the law profession is more competitive now than it's ever been. Although I'll tell you, I read a history of the law profession, and I read complaints about it's all about money and hours, and we're not getting into court enough, and that was written in the 1950s, so maybe it's not as different as we think it is. But I think that the legal profession, and I mean this from both the plaintiff's perspective and the defense perspective, is one of the fundamental strengths of this country. I was on a panel with a law professor from Mexico City who said that a huge difference in our economies was our legal systems, and she included and meant our civil legal system. So I think that there's a way to make a difference. I think that we're doing good work. We're making it easy to resolve disputes. Our clients complain that it costs too much money. But having the civil legal system here, I think, is very important. So I would advise people to go to law school because I think it's important that they do so. And whether you're practicing in a big firm or practicing as a plaintiff's lawyer or doing other things like the Gitmo task force that I mentioned, I think you add to society.
What do you think is the most beautiful courthouse in the United States?
I love some of the small courthouses throughout the South, and the common factor they have is windows, which aside from a courthouse up in Napa Valley, I haven't seen outside of the South. The Santa Barbara courthouse may be my favorite. It's a mission-style, beautiful courthouse.
Rich, if you had one poignant piece of advice to impart on the next generation of young lawyers, what would that be?
I don't think they would find it poignant, but I go back to that book I gifted. Don't multitask. To them, I think that they think they can, and I think that it's a dangerous road to take. But more important than that, because that's how to practice law, is I go back to something that Emerson said a long time ago, obviously, which is do things outside of your comfort zone. He said a lot more artfully than that, but to me that has been a guiding principle, and it leads to an interesting career path.
That's great. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it.